think a lot of people are worried the market's overhyped, it's over leveraged, there's no good deals, interest rates are too high. I mean, name the excuse. How do you look at there's always access to money, but there's always access to opportunity, even when markets on the surface may not indicate that there are? So, how do you go below the surface to still find opportunities in the game of real estate?
Well, that is definitely the hard part. It's this is not one of those situations where okay, I have the money or now I'm ready. Like that still might not be the time, because there's a time to hit the brakes and there's a time to hit the gas. The only way to know that is if you're actually, you've been driving the car for a little while. That's the only way. So you can't, I look at like my son when he got his license, he got in an accident like in the first few months. Thankfully, he wasn't hurt. Why? Inexperience, right? And so, and so after a while, you start to see things differently. You've been on the road. You see other drivers' behavior. Now, it's just an interesting analogy. You can't just jump into real estate and get like you can just getting your license and driving a car. You have to actually kind of do it. You have to buy one, then you buy two, then you have to understand tenant behavior. You can't read about it. You can't watch about it on YouTube. You have to sit down across from a bank and be on the side where they say no. You have to have a deal where you don't have the money and you need to figure it out. Even on that Tucson 8 deal back in 2015, I remember exactly what happened was the there was an 8 property deal that was coming out of what was called the housing authority, where the low income component was burning off in a year and a half, and so in order for us to get that deal, Ross and I had to put $1 million up hard, non-refundable day one personally, and we did it. And that was 10 years ago. So you imagine, I was like, well, so obviously we dug into the 8 deals. We looked at it. And inside of those 8 deals, that's where the value add came from. And there were things that property owner wasn't doing that they just hadn't kept up with the times. So kind of back to that property management side of the business, I was looking at it from an operational standpoint, and I said these are all the ways that we can increase value, and we did, as you know. So I had the confidence that we could put up that $1 million and I could create the value and get that back, and so that not only yourself but all the other investors and Ross and I could benefit from that. And so I think that comes from driving that car for a while. That comes from seeing the actual deal and understanding that, how a lot of people focus on cash flow or cash on cash, and I think that's important. My main objective is my cash back. That's a big difference. Like, how am I going to get my cash back without selling the property? And so, that's return of capital, not return on capital. And I think it's a big, big difference with a lot of these, folks that come into the market late where they're looking to, and by the way, I think you have to do that. You have to check that box. How much, if I invest in this, how much am I going to get back, and what's my, am I going to be better off in a T bill, or am I better off in this deal? I get that, but for me, it's a bigger view, and so with that, the answer to your question is it's extremely hard to find those deals, but when you do, then you know.
You know what? I want to piggyback on that. And Scott, I'm going to ask one more question, then let's take it into the type of assets that we want to talk about. But Ken, you're so good at what you do. And when you talk about time under tension, right? I mean, I'm sure you've learned through the school of hard knocks, through losses. I mean, I don't know if you guys caught what Ken just said. He had to put up $1 million inflation adjusted a decade ago. That's close to $2.5 million today of his own money just to be able to look at doing due diligence. And the number one question that he's asking is, how do I get my money back? Now, Ken, this summit is specifically focused on helping people own real estate, not necessarily do real estate. So for context on this, I want you to kind of open up the playbook a little bit and talk about what it means to be a professional real estate investor. And you've given me the opportunity to step into your world and own a part of real estate, but leverage not just OPM, but leverage OPE, other people's experience, right? Your experience as a deal maker, that's paid me and it's allowed me to have what I want, which is profit and time. And it's allowed you to get profit by me bringing money into your deal. But how does someone, if they want to get into it professionally, because we're advocating do it passively, right? Own an asset, but don't do the work to flip it and manage it like you do. Talk us through a little bit what it takes to be a professional real estate investor like you are.
Well, thank you. As I said, if you want to go back to when I got a degree, I wrestled in college. That's how I got there, and I did not at the time have do I want to be a real estate professional in my brain. And as you know, my wife, she's got 5 now. My sister, who was a bookkeeper her whole life at the Everett Clinic, which is what area that I grew up in the Pacific Northwest. She had several $1 million of paid off real estate by the time she decided to retire. So you can take it a few ways, right? You can take it you don't have to be all in the beginning is what I mean. Like you start off with 1 and then you do 2, then you do 3, then you do 4. And what actually happens, Ryan, is you realize that you're going to make a lot more money doing this than you are, so I don't actually advocate people to kind of jump over at all. I say, just do 1, pay it off, do 2, pay it off. My wife's parents are looking, they're retiring actually right now. And I said, well, why are you guys retiring? It's because they own a bunch of real estate that's paid off. That's why. Like, period. And by the way, I would not put them in the real estate investor category or the professional at all. I would not put my sister there. Danielle's on her way, and I think that she wants to, do that. No, but I always say, I just think that you should consider it as opposed to putting all your money in Wall Street or something like that. So now, once you dip your toe in the water and you start to see the cash flow, you start to see how the community is, right, which is super supportive. They help you find lenders, they help you find contractors, they help you find equity, they help you, they mentor you along, they coach you, and I'm not talking about, it doesn't even have to be paid. Like, these are people that you can run into if you're just, in the right circles, and so obviously. For a lot of people, they do take that next step, and they they go double down, and so I always tell people, start slow, make small mistakes, make small investments, and build your team, and then if you like it, great. If you don't, then just do it every once in a while. But what I've found is that once they kind of see that, oh, you kidding me? I get these kinds of tax benefits and I can offset my ordinary income. Yeah. What? And then, Danielle's now obsessed, right? And I've watched her. I mean, by the way, she was a teacher, school teacher. And then, then she started a little business that wasn't scalable. So she sold that. And then she became an esthetician. So she did all of this just one at a time. And only now, last summer, she got a real estate license.